There you go. Now we go live. How's it going, Gustavo?
Hey, doing good, everybody. Happy Monday to everybody on.
Yeah, I hope you guys had a great weekend. Again, we're back every Monday, 8:30. We're going to talk about circle prospecting today. What's really circle prospecting all about, and how can you take the most advantage of it so that you can get more results? All right, Gustavo, take it away. Let us know what we can do today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Roberto. Yeah. So like give you a little bit of background. When I started Power ISA, this was almost 7 years ago. We were a circle prospecting company. That's all we did. We had dozens of people working on circle prospecting calls. We brought up just circle prospecting. The team did almost 50,000 outbound calls a day from circle prospecting. That's how we started the company. So prospecting, especially circle prospect, it's in our DNA. We know it inside and out, and we've been doing it for the last 7 years. We still have campaigns doing it right now, right? So I do want to talk a little bit about it. I know a thing or two about it, how it should be done, how it can work, and I know it's definitely changed. So, that's what I wanted to talk about today, the truth about circle prospecting. What is up with that? Why should people use it? I think it's one of the ways, circle prospecting is one of the ways you can always try and generate one transaction from another transaction. They say every listing should generate another transaction. A properly prospected, marketed, advertised listing can generate two other transactions, right? If you do it properly, if you do it the right way. And one of the best ways to do it is work that listing, right? Work that listing, get an open house. I know it's going to sell itself, and there's no time for an open house. Have an open house anyway, schedule it. People want to go, they want to go see the property, get leads from that open house, do door knocking around the listing 100%, and do prospecting around that listing. But here's the funny thing. It's harder to do an open house if that listing isn't yours. You have to ask permission. You have to ask them quickly because their home might not even be there in a few days. It's harder to do door knocking around an area we don't have any kinds of listings. Cold calling and circle prospecting, you can do anywhere for any reason, right? My favorites are always just listed and just sold. Those are great. But just listed, you should own the listing if you're going to do that, right? But just sold, you're just letting people know publicly available information that property just sold, right? And guess what? It went for multiple offers. And guess what? It went for this much above asking price, and it sold within these many days, right? So there's a lot of disappointed people out there trying to find a property here. I'd love to introduce them to you, right? Who do you know that I should know that's thinking about selling? That's essentially what the just listed script is. It's a little bit more than that. That's essentially the message. I'm paraphrasing, right? That's what you're trying to tell people. And then one of my favorites is there are no listings in the neighborhood. There's no recent listings in the neighborhood, right? But you have, and this is happening to agents all over the country. You've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buyers trying to live in the same zip code, same neighborhood, same school district, whatever it is. You've got half a dozen buyers, maybe a dozen buyers in one of that area, and you're playing the waiting game every weekend. Like, what listings coming up on the market? Just waiting because you've seen the available inventory, or there might not be any available inventory, right? So you're just hitting refresh every weekend to find those new listings. You can be proactive with that. Circle prospecting, when we call it more like geofarming, you're farming an area. You don't have any listings. That's why you're calling, because you don't have any listings there, right? Really, really important to understand that these prospecting activities, they generate interest and get people talking to you, right? The goal, so I'm going to talk a few really, really important myths about circle prospecting, right? The truth. Myth number one is that it doesn't work anymore, right? Oh, no, cold calling. And we had a thread in Real Closers this last week, right? Is cold calling work or not, right? There's almost up to 70 comments. There's a lot of churn on that thread, a lot of comments. People have really strong opinions about cold calling, right? Oh, it doesn't work anymore. Oh, it never worked before. Oh, don't do that. And then you had look at that thread, folks. People that have built their businesses on cold calling, and they still do it today. Like, not me, not Gus, the cold calling company, trying to tell you that it works. I mean, you can take my word for it or not. Look at that thread, read those comments. People that have been doing it for years, and they're still doing it right now.
Some people think it's still old school, right? It's too old school.
It's too old school. It's too old school. Everything's on Facebook now. Everything's branding. It should be Instagram and videos. And I'm here to tell you that both of those things can work. Both of those things can work. But in no way, shape, or form has one completely replaced the other. It's just not accurate. It's not true, right? And some folks, when they have reluctance to call, to door knock, to do any kind of prospecting activity, sometimes they don't just not do it, but they want to criticize people to do it. Like, don't be that person, right? Don't be the person that says, oh, I don't want to do that, right? Great. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. The problem can be, Roberto, when people want to, especially when they're newer in the industry. Hey, I'm a new agent. I don't want to call my sphere. I don't want to cold call. I don't want to door knock. I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do that. But I want to have a successful business. You're eliminating, you're chopping off your legs, you're chopping off your arms, and you go, yeah, I want to run a marathon, right? It's really hard to do that. How about asking a different question, which is what can work right now? And all of those things can work. The question is, can you do them? Do you have the training, the accountability, the motivation to do that? Because all of those things can work, but you can't just jump into it blindly. That's what we're talking about circle prospecting here. This is one aspect of prospecting. There's many, there's tons, but specifically circle prospecting can be very beneficial because little unknown fact, right? People think, oh, it's cold calling, it's really, really hard. That's another myth. Circle prospecting is probably the easiest cold call you're ever going to make. Probably the easiest one. Why? Because I've trained hundreds upon hundreds of ISAs to do it. It is the first script we teach new ISAs. Whether they're going to work on Facebook leads, Google, Zillow, cold calling, expired Facebook, it doesn't matter for us. It's circle prospecting is the first script because it's so easy to teach, right? It's a very simple script. It's a very short intro. Hey, this is Gus. There's a lot of activity going on in the market in your neighborhood. I'm just trying to find more sellers for my buyers, right? Can you help me out? Who do you think might be selling in the next few months? Oh, great. What about you, Roberto? Have you thought about relocating at some point? Oh, wait. And then after that, it's just questions. It's just clarifying questions. All objection handlers on the circle prospecting script start with a question, right? Oh, no, I'm good to go. That's awesome, Roberto. Do you own or do you rent your home right now? It doesn't matter what they say. Go to the next question. Oh, I own right now. Great. I'm sure you thought about getting something bigger, getting something smaller, maybe relocating somewhere. Any plans about that? Anything in the next year you're thinking about? Just it's almost a customer service approach, right? Where you're just one quick question, Roberto, just one quick question. How about this? How about that? You're just trying to build a little bit of rapport, and see if there's any interest. If they haven't hung up on you, which is the easiest thing to do, there's something there. You've got to keep asking the next question, keep asking the next question. Really, really important, right? So all of that can work, but compared to calling for sell by owners, calling expireds, calling even probates, calling these other kinds of prospecting, I feel this is the easiest one. It's the easiest one, and people don't know that. And people have a misconception. Cold calling is really, really hard. No. Cold calling has a spectrum of hard, right? It has circle prospecting on one end, because a lot of folks don't expect that call, but a lot of folks are not combative on that call. They're just not. People are just not that way. Versus a for sale by owner. Like, they are getting bombarded with calls from agents, right? So they're already in a defensive mode when you're talking to them. That doesn't happen with circle prospecting. It's very rare, right? That people get in that defensive mode. It's very different, right? So it's a big myth that, oh, cold calling is hard. It's equally hard no matter what you do. It's not true. It's a big difference on the types of prospecting. That's why we start with circle prospecting when we're training new ISAs. Start there, build expertise, and kind of go from there, right? The other thing, another myth. Yeah, it works. You can keep doing it the same way you did it 5, 6, 7 years ago. There's a lot of content on circle prospecting on the web, but a lot of it is from 2015, from 2016. Guys, things have changed in 2015, 2016. The biggest change you need to be aware of, in fact, this applies to any kind of outbound calling for real estate, but more so for circle prospecting, because it takes more dials to talk to people, right? That's a really important change you should understand. From 7 years ago to now, the scripts are the same. The leads essentially say the same things. Not much has changed. The biggest change is it's probably going to take more dials to talk to somebody. That is the biggest change. And that's the number one thing that's probably going to determine if you're going to be successful or not, right? How many dials does it take to have one contact, one conversation? Back in 2017, you didn't have to make many dials to talk to 100 people in a day, not many. I could talk to 100 people in 3 hours, 4 hours. It was a lot easier to get in touch with folks. Now, you probably need a full shift, 6, 7, 8 hours a day to have any chance, 50 to 100 people, right? In that range. And in some of the toughest markets, it's going to be 30 to 50 people in a full schedule, a full shift. That is a big change. What is different about that? It just takes more effort. And some of these more competitive markets, well, a good thing about those really competitive markets is the prices tend to be way higher than in some of the smaller markets. That's another thing. That's a pro and a con. It's to a double-edged sword. That's why people still do prospecting in the Bay Area, Southern California. We'll do cold calling campaigns in New York City, around that area. So different kind. And again, each one of those are different. I mean, they're not the same areas, not the same rules, but each one of those still do the grind. Why? Because the payback is so big, right? It costs the same to run, essentially it costs the same to run a circle prospecting campaign in the Bay Area than in Topeka, Kansas, right? Especially if you're outsourcing, you're hiring an ISA to help you make those calls. Costs you the same, but the return on investment in the Bay Area versus Topeka is 10 times larger, right? If you get a deal. So it's a trade-off, guys. It's a trade-off, but that's the biggest change. What you should do is always get a solid dialer that's built for circle prospecting, something like a Mojo dialer, multi-line dialer, right? Use the tools because they can help you stay compliant a lot easier than just using some tool that's not for real estate, right? Mojo gets it. Mojo understands. And there's other dialers like that, but if you've never tried it before, start there. Mojo even has a neighborhood search function that you can use for circle prospecting. So start there, but also RedX, Vulcan 7, they all have neighborhood calling functionality now, right? They didn't do that back in the day, back in 27 years ago. They have it now. So you can actually call 100, 200, 500 different numbers around any point you drop on a map, or in a zip code or in a neighborhood using those services. You can use that. I think in RedX, you drop an address and it gives you the list right off the bat. You don't have to draw it, right? On Mojo, I think you have to draw like a little circle around whatever address you want, and then it'll pull the numbers for you. So it's gotten a lot easier to do that. Use these tools. And another thing, if you know, and we've talked about this in other sessions, if you notice a steep drop in your contact rate, let's say it takes you 500 dials to talk to 50 people. Round number, 500 dials to talk to 50. That's about a 10% contact rate. That's not bad for circle prospecting, cold calling. That's not bad, actually, right? You want to keep it. You want to keep it above that. My team can probably do about 20, 25 when we do cold calling campaigns. But let's say you're at 10. That's not bad. It's not the worst, not the best. It's not the worst. 10%. If the next day you're at 5%, what's happened is that your number's been tagged, it's been flagged, right? Unsolicited call, which is true, but like robocall, which I hate because that's not really a robocall, or potential scam, I also hate, right? So your number can be tagged. So use some of these systems, use the software that can help you rotate those numbers, right? Because there's no going back from that. I haven't found a great way to get a number back from being tagged either by iOS, Android, the carriers, whatever. That has changed. That's a big change from when we did that back in 20 years ago, 2015. Big change, big difference. But you have to understand that, know and adapt to the changing circumstances, guys. You got to do that. But
yeah,
everyone,
sorry to cut you off, but some of the tools that you have out there, what they'll do is you buy about 4 or 5 different numbers.
Yeah.
And then what they'll do is they'll start using a number for, like, say, a max of 100 calls, right? And then it just switches to a new number. So it kind of lowers the chances of your number being tagged as spam. Or if it gets tagged as spam, then it automatically just uses a different number for you.
Gotcha. Do you have any tools you've used, Roberto, that you would recommend?
For that specifically, we're using Batch Dialer. It's very similar to
it's a good one.
Mojo, and it's working great so far.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. The technology adapts, right? Even Ring Central, which is a voice over IP, it's not a multi-line dialer, it's a phone line. But you need a number to dial into tools like Mojo, for example, right? So that number you use to dial in, that one you can rotate and you can change. Yeah. So really, really important to know the rules, right? These are the rules. This is what you have to do nowadays to get a decent contact rate. But if you get a decent contact rate, you can make this work, right? So anyone and everyone should give this a try, give it a shot. Do not poo-poo it. Do not say no. Give it a shot, right? Unless you've tried it, and tried it not for a day, guys. You can't do this for a day. That's another thing, another myth about circle prospecting. Oh yeah, I should be seeing appointments within a month. That doesn't happen with circle prospecting. You build a pipeline of qualified sellers, right? And in 60 to 90 days, right? 3 months into it, doing it every day, you will start seeing some of those follow-ups lead to something, right? A follow-up can lead to an appointment, not within the first week, not within the first 30 days. Setting the proper expectation is key. A prospecting activity like that, you start to see positive ROI between 3 to 6 months, but it accumulates over time. That's why it's hard for people to stick with it, right? Because you don't see the instant gratification that you can get even by calling it for sale by owner and expire. That's a motivated seller. That's why everyone's calling those, right? Because there's a potential listing right off the bat. Those are few and far between in this market. But if you do prospecting, you accumulate those sellers, right? You get more of them. You get 5 in a week. You get 10 in a week. And yes, they're going to be selling maybe in the next year. That's fine. But get 100 of them in that list, right? Get 200 of them in that list, and then see what happens. Those follow-up calls, because part of the script is doing a follow-up call with everybody. Hey, great, Roberto. I totally understand you're going to do something in the next year. I get it. When is a good time for me to follow up with you and see how things are going? That's the end of the script, right? Ask permission for that follow-up. When is a good time? And no matter what number they give you, call them about half the time. Yeah, that's always a rule of thumb. And if they tell you to call next month, okay, don't call next in a week, right? That's pretty short time frame. But if usually it's going to be 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, you can give them a call. They're not going to remember when they told you. They're not, like, life happens, guys, right? They don't have a relationship yet. But if you do that follow-up, check in with them. And then you can invite them to the next event. You can offer them something of value. You can tell them about the last listing you closed. Update them, right? Give them some news. Give them something valuable. They're going to remember you, right? And you're going to get some of those invitations to compete on those listing appointments, or they're going to call you back. Hey, Gus, I'm ready to go. That's amazing, by the way. People don't think that happens. But when you accumulate these qualified seller leads and you follow up with them, you're going to get callbacks, right? Not in the first 30 days, but the chance you have to do that, you have to be doing this for at least 90 days. You want to accumulate 100 nurtures in there. Keep nurturing them, and you're going to get massive results. You stick with it and you talk to enough people, right? So that's it. That's it, guys. That's the truth about circle prospecting. That's how you can do it. That's how you can make it happen.
Awesome, Gustavo. Thanks a lot, man. Now, a couple key points, right? You talked about circle prospecting. Not a lot of people are doing it right now. And that's 100% true. You know, I've been here at this place for about 8-9 years already. And I've probably gotten calls twice about houses that sold in the neighborhood. Twice.
I mean, it happens. It happens. It's just not free. People don't really do that. They don't really try it. Most people are just more likely to say, oh, no, that can't work, than to try it and see what the result is, right? And here's even better. You can try it. You don't get a great result. You adapt, you tweak, you make it work, right? So it's not going to work right off the bat. But people that put effort into it, that's why they do it. That's why they do it, right? You can get, if you can find a way to have 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 real estate conversations a day, circle prospecting is one way. But if you can find another way, you're going to be successful, right? Have 20, 30, 40, 50 real estate conversations a day, something that's going to happen, because that's the beginning of that engine, of that pipeline. That's the beginning.
Exactly. I mean, I tell everybody, right? You want to close a deal today, you should have started 6-12 months ago. Right?
100%. It's the best time to do it is 6 months ago, 12 months ago. The next best time, like they say, is today.
Today. Yeah. Because that way you're going to build that pipeline. You're going to get that nurturing systems in place. And I mean, it is not going to be easy. It is going to be time consuming, but you're building your business right now. So you might as well try, you might as well do it. Right. Yeah. And of course, leverage. Right.
Absolutely. And some folks, you know, oh, I don't want to try. I'm too busy, or I can, Gus, I used to make those calls. I get this a lot, actually. People would make some of these calls when they started. And then they got busier, they built a database, and they kind of let go. And now they're thinking, hey, I'm stuck at a season of achievement. You should go back to what worked, right? There's a reason. It's not easy to make those calls, right? But it worked for you. You built the book of business, right? You drove the things for, you would get listing. People get listings because they have a prospecting team, or they know how to do it, right? Hey, we're going to find those buyers. We're going to invite 1,000 of your neighbors into that next open house. It's impressive. People get listings because of that. But they forget, or they not forget, but they stop doing what made them successful because they want to make their life easier. I get it. I understand. That's where you can add leverage in your business, right? If you have prospecting in your DNA, you know what it's about. You just don't have time to do it the way you used to. That's a great reason to get an ISA. You should check it out. We have a great deal for members of this group. People that are looking for leverage. It's time to add some leverage. powerisa.com/realclosers. Check it out. We'd love to help. And one more thing before we finish up today. people are talking about, is the market adjusting? Are we seeing a shift? Is there going to be a recession in the next year? We don't know that. But I do know one thing. Whenever the market shifts, the teams, the agents that have a prospecting arm to their business are less susceptible to the whims of the market. They've got a way to go out and find business, right? They're not just relying on past clients, referrals, and recommendations. They're not just relying on internet leads, right? And Gary Keller had a really famous quote in the last recession saying, hey, you need to become prospecting based and marketing enhanced, because in the good times, it's easy to put a bunch of money in marketing, right? But when it gets tough, things get tough, when the market shifts, momentum changes, being prospecting based is going to have massive ROI. So again, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but being prospecting based is a great way to recession proof your business.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Gustavo. And remember, guys, we're here every Monday, 8:30 PST, live in the Facebook group. And if you're watching this in the YouTube channel, yes, that's right, guys. We have a YouTube channel now. If you're
Awesome.
watching it, if you're not yet a member of the group, we have the link in the description. Join us today. Let's grow this group together and let's grow our businesses together. Awesome, Gustavo. Thanks a lot, man. We'll see you again next Monday.
Thanks a bunch, man.